Hello, good morning everyone. Myself KrishnaPrasad, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, MIT Mysore. So, in the previous session, our beloved colleague Professor Satish discussed about what are the different types of energy resources and what are the types of fuels and all. So, today we are going to discussing about first thing it is called what is meant by renewable energy resources and types of renewable energy resources. So, the renewable energy resources means energy resources which are continuously produced in nature and it is inexhaustible. And if it is exhausted and it can be renewed within a short period of time, that is called renewable energy resources. And the types of renewable energy resources it is called solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, hydro energy and nuclear power. So, in the very first thing it is called, first we need to understand what is meant by the solar energy. So first, what is meant by the solar energy? Solar energy means it is energy radiated from the sun in the form of electromagnetic radiation, that is called solar energy. So next thing it is called, then what is meant by the solar power? So solar power means it is power utilized by producing the solar energy, it is called solar power. So next, it is very important thing in the solar energy concept, it is called solar thermal energy harvesting system. So what is meant by the solar thermal energy harvesting system? Here, solar energy radiated from the sun, it has to capture, stored and utilized for various applications, that is called solar thermal energy harvesting system. So here there are three types. The one it is called liquid flat plate collector, then it is called solar point and then it is called solar photovoltaic cell. So very first thing we need to understand what is meant by the liquid flat plate collector. So the liquid flat plate collector, it is mainly used for low temperature applications like cooking, heating as well as drying the food grains and vegetables, where liquid flat plate collectors are used. So liquid flat plate collectors are used in the domestic solar water heater tank. So that means in the domestic solar water heater tank, first we need to understand what is the working of liquid flat plate collector. So this liquid flat plate collector, it is connected to the two tanks. The one it is called upper header tank, other one it's called solar water heater tank. Here the input of the liquid flat plate collector, it is connected to the overhead tank and output of the liquid flat plate collector, it is connected to the solar water heater tank. Then what are the main parts of the liquid flat plate collector? The main parts of the liquid flat plate collectors are called, first one absorber plate, second one it is called water tube and third one it is called transparent glass cover and fourth one it is called casing. First we need to understand what is meant by the absorber plate. How absorber plates are made? Absorber plates are made up of copper and it is coated with black so as to absorb the solar radiations are falling on it. And the second one it is called water tubes. So what are the water tubes? Water tubes are nothing but it is the metallic tubes through which water circulates. And the third one it is called transparent glass cover. This transparent glass cover, it is nothing but toughened glass and it is having the sufficient amount of thickness. The main purpose of using the transparent glass cover, that means whenever solar radiation passes through this cover, then it is incident on the absorber plate and few of the radiations get reflected from the absorber plate and it will get escapes into the atmosphere, but transparent glass cover, it does not going to allow this. That means this transparent glass cover is going to capture those radiation and reflected back to the absorber plate. That means heat is remains trapped in the airspace between the absorber plate and the transparent glass cover. That means the complete utilization of solar energy. Next one, what is meant by the casing? So casing, it is provided below the liquid flat plate collector in order to prevent the heat losses by conduction. So then what is the working of liquid flat plate collector? So the working of the liquid flat plate collector, I already told, the liquid flat plate collector input is connected to the overhead tank and output is connected to the solar water heater tank. That means initially water from the overhead tank is made to flow through the water tubes and during the sunshine, so solar radiation is passes through the transparent glass cover and falls on the absorber plate. Once the solar radiation is falls on the absorber plate, it absorbs the heat energy. Then this heat energy from the absorber plate is transferred to the water flowing through the water tubes. Then the water gets heated up. Once the water gets heated up, it loses its density. That means the density of the hot water is always less than the cold water. Hence it is rises up and collected in the solar water heater tank. So this is the working of liquid flat plate collector. That means we are utilizing the solar energy into heat energy, then it is used for cooking, heating. The next topic, it is called solar pond. So what is mean by the solar pond? Solar pond is a pool of salt water that is used to collect and store solar energy in the form of heat. Then the heat energy, then it is used for various applications like drying the food grains. Then it is also used for electrical power supply, and it is also used for power generation purpose. So then, before understanding what exactly is the solar pond, first we need to understand how the solar energy it is get wasted actually in case of the lake or a pond. So during the sunshine, when solar radiation passes through the water, then water is get absorb the solar radiation and gets heated up. So once the water gets heated up, it rises upwards and gets settles at the top. And once it reaches the top, it gives off its radiation to the atmosphere. Hence, the solar radiation and its heat energy get wasted. Then how to utilize this heat energy? That means here in case of the solar pond, we are having some mechanism. So in that mechanism, we are completely storing the solar energy and its heat energy completely in the storage zone. From the storage zone, it is pumping it to the evaporator or a boiler, where it is heated further. Hence it get converting from water into the steam. So the heat energy of the steam, then it is made to flow over the turbine to convert the mechanical energy. Then in turn it can be converted into electrical energy in case of the generator. Then what is the construction of the solar pond? So the construction of the solar pond, it is very simple. That means it constructed below the ground level, and it mainly consists of three zones. The first one, it is called surface zone, second one it is called gradient zone, and third one it is called storage zone. So first, what is meant by the surface zone? So the top zone, it is called it as the surface zone, and it contains very less salt content in it, and as well as it is exposed to the atmosphere. Hence it is at the atmospheric condition or atmospheric temperature. So next, second one, it is called bottom zone. The bottom zone, it is also called it as the storage zone, and it is having the very high salt content in it, and the temperature of the storage zone, it is around 70 to 85 degrees centigrade, and whatever the solar radiation is passes through the surface zone and gradient zone, it reaches the storage zone, and the solar radiation, it is going to capture and store. Then it is utilized for various application from the storage zone. And next, the very important one, it is called it as the intermediate zone. The intermediate zone, it is also called it as the gradient zone, and this gradient zone, it is usually acts as a transparent insulator. Why it is acts as a transparent insulator? That is very important, because the layers of water above the gradient zone, it is having the very less salt content. Similarly, the layers of water above the gradient below the gradient zone having the very high salt content. Therefore, the layers of water in the gradient zone, it neither rise nor fall. That's why the layers of water in the gradient zone, it acts as a transparent insulator, so that whatever the solar radiation is passes from the surface zone and then it is passes through the gradient zone, then it is directly enters into the storage zone. So in the storage zone, because of the very high salt content, the solar radiation, it is going to capture and store there itself. Hence the heat energy, it is completely stored in the storage zone. So this is the construction regarding to the solar pond. Then what is the working of the solar pond? Very simple. We are already told the solar pond is a pool of salt water with a very less salt content at its top and very high salt content at its bottom. So then what happens? During the sunshine, when solar radiation is passes through the surface zone and gradient zone, then it is enters into the storage zone. In the storage zone, because of the very high salt content, the heat energy is completely going to capture and traps there itself. Then hot water is then pumped to from the storage zone into the evaporator or a boiler, where it is going to heat it further. Hence the water is get converted into the steam. So the steam having the very heat energy, the heat energy is then made to flow over the turbine in order to convert heat energy of the steam into the mechanical energy. So then mechanical energy is in turn can be converted into electrical energy with the help of the generator. So that means, and this solar pond in India, it is installed in the Bhuj of Gujarat in order to utilize the solar energy into the electrical energy. So next, the last part of the solar energy, it is called it as solar photovoltaics. The solar photovoltaic cell, it is very important and it is generally used in the various applications like electric watches as well as in the traffic signal. We are going to use the solar photovoltaic cell. Then how the working of the solar photovoltaic cell? The solar photovoltaic cell, it is also called it as the solar cells. That means which converts solar energy into the electrical energy. So then what is the construction of the solar photovoltaic cell and how solar photovoltaic cells are made? The solar photovoltaic cells are usually made up of semiconductor materials like silicon. So these semiconductor materials consists of two layers. The first layer has N-type silicon and it contains negatively charged electrons, and another layer it is called P-type silicon and it contains positively charged holes. Then this charge distribution across the junction, that means across the junction means there is an interface between P-type silicon and N-type silicon. This is called it as the PN junction. Next, principle of photovoltaic cell. Very simple. In a PN junction semiconductor material, the N-type silicon having the negatively charged electron. These negatively charged electrons tend to move towards the P side to combine with large number of holes concentration. Similarly, the P-type silicons having the holes, these holes are tend to move towards the N side in order to combine with large number of electron concentration. This charge distribution across the PN junction gives rise to potential difference across the junction. So this is the principle of solar photovoltaic cell. Then what will be the working of solar photovoltaic cell? Very simple. Whenever this PN junction semiconductor material is exposed to the sunlight, the solar radiation is going to absorb. Whenever solar radiation it falls on the semiconductor PN junction material, some of the solar photons whatever available in the PN junction semiconductor material, these solar photons will have a tendency to eject the free electron from its fixed position in the PN junction semiconductor material. So once these free electrons ejected from its fixed position, then they are tend to move towards the P side in order to combine with large number of holes concentration. Then the moment of negatively charged electrons, we all know that the moment of negatively charged electron, it is nothing but electrical current. Once the electrical current is developed, then potential difference across the PN junction is also going to develop. Then it is used for electrical application. Already